There we go. Welcome to the Brady Bunch. Quarkus Insights 156. Um, yeah, a little special one. Well, first of all, we are doing what we call like the this Brady Bunch setup. I should be in the middle, by the way. Go like look at one. But yeah. So we have seven developers plus me here talking about like a favorite feature in the what we call the LTS release. Um, Maybe we just do a quick round, so because there are some new people here. So I'm Max, co-leading Quarkus. I'll go that way to French, I think. Just do a quick like name of what you do, and then we'll go on.
Yeah. So I mainly work on performance on Quarkus, Vertex, and down the road till the operating system. And I'm the one to blame if something is really slow. But it's too slow, you can blame other people.
Awesome. And then going down. Oh, there we go. The Carl's.
So I'm Carlos. I'm also a developer, and I work mainly on the messaging space, but more specifically working around the schema registry, a peculiar registry in this case.
Sorry. And Georgius.
Yeah, hey, Georges. Used to be here a lot. Now the time doesn't work too well for me, so
Well,
it's been a while. So yeah, I work on various things. Well, whatever.
all the things, I guess.
Not all, but enough.
Good. Well, welcome back, Georgius. Roberto.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roberto. You've probably seen me a few times in the last couple of insights because I'm helping doing that now instead of Georgius, I guess. So I work on some bits of the Quarkus core, a lot on the configuration space, and a lot on the small Ryan projects and a few other things here and there around Quarkus.
Excellent. Holly.
So I'm Holly Cummins. I do various things around Quarkus, especially looking at the sort of the Quarkiverse and the ecosystem.
George.
Hi, I'm George. You may know me for the Quarkus registry and for provisioning Quarkiverse repositories out there.
Okay. And you're sitting next to French, I can see.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Clement.
Hey, so I'm Clément. I come here relatively often for the insight, so I'm handling all the reactive parts of Quarkus and the core and a few other things, but yeah.
Right. So are you taking the blame for it's going slower or faster?
Soon I will get the blame why it doesn't work anymore.
Got it. Cool. Anyway, as I said, this is a little bit of a special episode. We had the 3.8 release coming out last week, and yeah, we have the people here, and I thought, hey, let's try and do one where we have everyone who have interest and willingness and time to go on. So I sent out a request on Quarkus Dev. Unfortunately, no one outside Red Hat managed to reply. So encourage you everyone to do that next time. It was a bit on a late notice, but anyhow. So anyway, so here we are for the LTS version. And for those who don't know or don't like acronyms, it is long-term support, meaning, and for us that's like a year, where a year plus, where we maintain patches, etc. So the last one we had was Quarkus 3.2. And so we are encouraging everyone who's on 3.2 to please upgrade to this one, because the 3.2 will no longer receive security fixes unless they are like bad ones. We will focus on 3.8. And we even have some Quarkus 2x users out there, we know, and we please encourage you even more to upgrade. And if you're going to do the upgrade, please upgrade to the 3.8. If it's because you want to use something stable and supported, 3.8 is the recommended one to go. We of course have a release block, as always, done by Guillaume, where he goes into all the nitty-gritty details. And the 3.8 is, I wouldn't say there's like a big changes in there, but it's just the big change is all the small pickups of fixes and improvements, and we'll get into some of these in this conversation today. But of course, the big one that is in here is the requirement of Java 17. So in Quarkus 3.0, we announced that L11 is still supported, but we will deprecate it, and we mark it as deprecated and then remove it, and that time has now come. And the big thing I wanted to highlight is that yes, Java 17 is the minimum for the base of dependencies. But it doesn't mean you can't use Java 21, for example, which I know Clement's going to talk about, especially the virtual threads. And then the other thing is just remember there is the Quarkus update tool that if you want to upgrade and do all these things, we've done as much as we could to automate it. So you look up the Quarkus update tool and run it. And if for some reason that you can't find, it doesn't work for you, if you go into the release blog, there is the link to all the migration guides from 3.0 to 3.2. So 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, 3.7 has some migration guides where we have in detail the things that are there. In general, we do try and don't break users, but we also don't want to get stuck. So there are some changes that could affect users. And I just remembered here that we actually had OK HTTP is a big one, not a big one. I thought it was earlier, but those who wanted us to not enforce OK HTTP is now free. We've moved that to Vertex HTTP in most cases, so we're not relying on it. Yeah, but anyway, there's a bunch of stuff in here. The biggest is Java 17. And then a little note here that is that we are doing a rename of everything that's called reactive that doesn't require reactive by the user. We want to give another name. So in 3.8, this is not, the rename has not happened yet, but we do want to make it clear that, for example, the Quarkus REST client is actually the classic REST Easy client. So that's now got a new name. We've done that so that if you are an extension developer or a user, you can target 3.8. Most likely be able to target 3.8 and future version of Quarkus coming, like 3.9, 3.10, where we will do a rename of these reactive extensions. And this is because we've had so many people not using the REST Easy reactive extensions and other reactive extensions because they thought, because they have reactive in a name, that they could only use reactive. And that is not true. And we will have more updates on it, but I'll just say in 3.8, we had this start of the rename, which we're trying to make as like we'll have relocation, that kind of stuff, for everything we can handle. But for the REST client, there is this unfortunate little thing. But anyway, if you update 3.8, look in the migration notes, you shouldn't break. And if you update to that REST client directly, future ones will not break for you either. So much renaming. Reminds me of Google. That's a low blow. Well, I think this is the first time we're doing this kind of rename, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's got the relocation instead of being just killed stone dead.
Yes, that is true. So yeah, and I thought there was one more here. Can it directly upgrade from 2.16 to 3.8 using the upgrade tool? Yes, you should be able to. If you can't, please open the bug. But yeah, the upgrade tool is intended to be able to upgrade from at least 2.13 and upwards, and even further back. I don't know how far we tested, but it's designed to be able to update from that. Yes. And then Benjamin says there's no features in 3.8. Yeah.
The lack of Java 11 is a feature.
The lack of Java. Well, that was in 3.7 to be correct. I think he's referring to that the 3.8 is the new 3.7.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did a little bit different this time, that we gave a bit more time for the LTS to soak in. So the 3.8 is basically 3.7, and we've done everything to not update critical dependencies. Even though I know there's a Vertex upgrade on its way that we have to fix, but yeah. So anyway, no. So what we talk about today is basically things between 3.2 and 3.8. 3.8 is the non-event. It's all the stuff in between. That's the great thing. And I the favorite feature I actually have, and this is small, besides going to Java 17, which is nice for simplicity of upgrades, is that dev mode has had this for a long time, that it did not support annotation processor. Not that you couldn't run with annotation processor, but it was just when you did the reload, annotation processor was not taking into account. So if you are a person who are using Lombok, don't do that by the way, but if you are, or you're using Mapstruct or the Hibernate meta generator or that kind of thing, you before 3.7, I think, you would have to stop dev mode and start it again to see the changes. In 3.7 and onwards, they will be included. That should, on one hand, that should make the experience better, but you'll also experience that things get a bit slower because now we have to wait for the annotation process to finish before the reload to happen. So give it.
Can we blame France for that?
Probably.
Well, I know one thing that's missing from this.
Oh, which one is that?
That we haven't closed a bunch of issues that are open, because last week I don't know, I took a couple hours going through some like old issues randomly, and I definitely saw some of these that were still open.
They haven't been closed yet, and I have on my list to actually go through them, but yeah, I have a little.
Oh, it's a tall order. I mean, I do it like once every few months. I go through some old ones randomly, but they're like, there's a ton of them there, and they're hard to locate.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the great thing is that this, for example, the Hibernate. I know the Hibernate. Sorry, in Panache and some of the Hibernate features that's coming. Hibernate what's it called 6.4, where we generate these repositories and interfaces. The support for annotation process becomes really a key thing. There's just some stuff that becomes much nicer that we've been missing out on. So that's very good. Cool. And then the CLI has more features and updates, but I'm always over time for covering this. So yeah. Anyway, that was my part. So I actually forgot who's the next one. Let's just see what shows up here. So yeah, Clement, you have a big slide here, but yeah, you can't use 15 minutes, by the way.
No, but well, we did an insight a few weeks ago covering this, so I'm going to be pretty fast on that. So one of the key feature between 3.2 and 3.8, as you mentioned, is the support of Java 21. And in Java 21, there is this big part that a lot of people were expecting and waiting and eagerly waiting for, which were virtual threads. So between 3.2 and 3.8, we have integrated virtual threads in a lot of different parts of the Quarkus ecosystem. REST endpoint, gRPC services, scheduled tasks, all the messaging parts. We have a lot of compatible clients, probably the biggest set of compatible clients that exist out there. That doesn't mean that do the right thing at the right moment. So just a reminder that yes, we have a great virtual thread story. Our choice may not be popular because we want explicit limitations, but there are very good reasons why we are doing that. And I invite you to one, the insights we did 3 weeks ago, or the blog post series I wrote last year. This is the first post that will explain you why we explicitly need a run on virtual thread annotation. And to finish on that slide, virtual thread does not kill reactive. Even if we are removing reactive from some names, it is unrelated to virtual threads. So it's actually the opposite. It's a perfect companion because to do virtual thread right, you often need a reactive layer underneath.
Yeah. No, I think it's important to we've been critical about Loom and virtual threads, and we still are, because if we don't believe we believe it's great, but it has missing some things, but can also enable a lot of great things. So yeah, to go see the episode and the blog post. You have a whole series on Quarkus.io that explains the whys and do. So if you're into this, definitely try it. I think we have the stack that supports the most, like virtual thread for real.
That includes native containers and all this stuff. So it's not just like demos. We have the complete story.
Yeah. And I just got a question here. Benjamin says, by the way, what is your release schedule? How often do you release a minor and how often patch versions? All the time. So we have a general release schedule is about once a month that we do a minor, and then we do patches I guess every other week, or depending on need. And need is like CVs or fixes. And actually, you can actually go to. Actually, I'm checking if this is up to. I actually need to update this, I think. Yeah, you see, I need to update this. This is so. If you go to Quarkus.io security, these are the ones we are maintaining. And yeah, we will add 3.8 LTS this week to this page. But generally, yeah, we are aggressively releasing every month, and a lot of releases. And yeah, it might change over time, but right now that's the thing we've kept up since 2019, I think. And that's where we are. Cool. Okay, that's the detail we get to. Okay. Anything else, Clement?
No, not on that one.
On that one.
Oh, by the way, that doesn't mean that the other Java 21 feature doesn't work. Actually, everything in Java 21 works, but we wanted to focus only on the virtual thread part.
Yeah. Well, the virtual thread is the only one that kind of impact Quarkus core. All the switch statements and extra preview template features is all a language level that we. It's all good. Okay. Does this answer question? Let me just see. What is this like? You're using Pandas at work, and there's a need to use native SQL. Will there be an implementation future version? It is an implementation. Arthur, I'm not. Can you rephrase the question? If anyone, can you parse what the question is?
Well, is that the user asking if he can use native SQL with Panache?
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Like Pandas. Yeah.
But you can, yeah.
So yeah. Yes, you can. You might. Well, yeah, Arthur. If you have a specific question on it, then let's do that one. Okay, Clement, you have another slide for your Redis.
Yeah, it's actually a slide I'm going to present, but I didn't do the work in that one. So kudos to Ladislav and Jan that did a lot of this work. So we have started since last year to improve our Redis story. Last year at spring, during the spring and then summer. But since 3.2, we have improved our compatibility with Redis 7.2. Then we have a lot of fixes. A lot of users complain about that. So the connection pool was misbehaving. Cluster Redis was not working well. Sentinel was not working, and Ladislav has taken responsibility and fixed a lot of issues related to Redis. We also have a Redis cache implementation. So now if you use the Quarkus cache, you can have a Redis backend instead of the caffeine one. It provides more or less the same feature set. Of course, it's Redis, so you need serialization, but yeah. We have more metrics, and if you're in the AI world, you definitely wanted to have that. We have the vector support that came in December or something like this. Jan added that, so now you can use the Redis client inside what we call a RAG pattern, so for your embeddings. So you can store your documents into a vector store, into a Redis vector store, and query them. So Jan added that feature. So lots of things regarding Redis. So it's pretty cool to see all this coming together.
Awesome. Then, Carlos.
Yes, so in the previous versions of Quarkus, when it comes to Kafka serialization, we only had support for the Avro format integrated into the platform. That is sufficient for a lot of users, of course, but there is the need for more formats. And in this version of Quarkus, we have introduced the support for JSON schema. So you can specify the location of your schema. You can configure that for your for an incoming channel. You can configure that for an outgoing channel, and so you can enforce the platform to use that schema. You can specify a location, or you can specify some coordinates, and the platform will make sure that for serialization and deserialization of those messages, you are using that schema. We have compatibility not only with a Epicuro registry, but also with Confluent schema registry. So either you're using one platform or the other, you will be fine. There's no problem in doing that. We have, of course, a guide with more information on how you can do that, and there are instructions for both Epicuro registry and Confluent schema registry. There are more formats coming, but in this version, we have introduced support for JSON schema serialization in Kafka, integrated into the platform.
Awesome. So okay, so because Kyle is one of those who replied to the thing, say, "Hey, I have this thing," and I was like, I didn't actually know what a feature was doing. so this is those who use Kafka, or depending on what's called Avron, the other protocol. So now we're just using plain up JSON instead.
Well, you can use Avro, and now you can use JSON schema as well. Yeah.
Well, you can also use plain schemaless JSON. That doesn't mean you can't anymore. But when you use schemas, then we only had Avro support, and now we have JSON schema. And Carlos has worked recently on the addition of protobuf. Didn't make the 3.8 cut, but hopefully in the future.
It will land in the future, yes. We are resolving some native build issues with the protobuf compatibility, but we'll land in the future for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Okay. What was the next one? Yeah, by the way, anyone who's listening in, just ask questions, and that's what we're here for. I think we can answer almost any question with the people we have here. So almost any question. George.
Yeah. Well, so among all the new features coming up, one that is worth mentioning is that we have a bunch of new OpenID Connect providers that are supported now. So in addition to the existing providers, we now support Mastodon, LinkedIn, Twitch, Discord. And last but not least, if you like to run as fast as Quarkus, we also support Strava. So that's...
That was such a dad joke.
Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, I know that Sergey, there's a blog coming where it's actually combining Strava with a ChatGPT wiring, so you can ask your Strava data how much, or rather the lack of Strava data, how much you need to run, or that kind of thing. But I guess when we say OpenID, like you could use all these before, you just have to manually wire it up, right? So this means now it's just super easy to get going and do authorized authentication between these.
Yeah, there were some fixes to make them fully supported. I mean, if you try with 3.2, probably some of them will not work.
Because they've some protocol differences and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so, exactly.
But no, that's very nice. Excellent. And Sergey says the blog will publish with 3.9. Yes. Very nice. Georges.
Yeah, so I'll admit that like I did not go through the list from 3.2 on. I just like opened a couple pages from the pull request. Like, oh yeah, okay, I'll pull out some interesting ones. Interesting for a few reasons. Oh, actually, I see. I updated the slides like a few minutes ago. But I guess you have like an old version or something. Anyway,
I can reload them. 2 seconds.
yeah, if you can, that'll be great. Yeah.
Is that the next one? Yes.
Excellent. Cool. Thanks. Okay, so basically, yeah, there were a lot of fixes to OpenTelemetry between version 3.3, well, 3.2 plus and 3.8. The one I wanted to highlight here is that we are using custom exporters for offloading like the traces to like whatever OpenTelemetry server, Jaeger, whatever. We used to use like the provided one from OpenTelemetry that had HTTP. Obviously, we've said other times here we don't want HTTP. We don't want anything to do with HTTP. So we got rid of that. We were basing it on Vertex now. So that has a lot of benefits. Like you use the same stack, same networking, less classes, less memory usage, whatever. But the reason I wanted to bring it up here is because like a few days before we cut 3.8, there was an issue that had been open for I don't know a couple months, and people were starting to complain even more. Like, oh yeah, some of these exporters like they're not. They're like throwing like random errors every few minutes or hours or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'll take a look. And I speculatively, whatever, provided a fix. But the awesome thing is that the community stepped up and like, okay, they're like, okay, I'll take this. I'll run it with my like production like data or whatever, see what happens. And yeah, and it just worked. So the cool thing here is that the community actually was so quick in testing this in a real life environment that we were able to ship this for 3.8, right? Without having to have like an elaborate production-like environment with data or whatever. So that's the reason I added it here. I really love the interaction there with the community.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was amazing. And like I said, this is like a few days before 3.8, right? So without this testing from the community, we probably would have not shipped this in 3.8, right?
Excellent.
Yeah. So that was amazing.
Awesome.
So the other the REST client, the reason, well, there's nothing earth-shattering here, but the reason I wanted to bring this one up is because of the work we've been doing on the LangChain for J stuff, where we're heavily using the REST client, and well, with all the providers like OpenAI and Azure or whatever, but the one that really stressed us was OpenAI because it has a lot of features. So we're actually dogfooding the REST client so much. So we had various fixes going into this and improvements, a lot of SSE related fixes and other like usability things. So that's the reason I wanted to bring this one up because we're dogfooding a lot.
Is it the server-side events or?
Yeah, SSE server-side events, yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, like REST client, like super time saver for anyone that hasn't used it. You definitely should.
Oh, nothing like test-driven development. Awesome.
Yeah, and the last one I just added this like a couple minutes ago. The reason this one is funny is because like there's a new like launch protocol for Java main. And I don't know, maybe it'd be 20 plus for Java 20 plus. I'm not sure.
21 is preview. Yeah.
Okay, 21 preview. Right. So you have to you don't have to say like public static void main with string array args. You can like omit the static part. You can omit the arrays, the string arrays part, and it just works. But the awesome thing with Quarkus is that you can do that, but you can even do it on Java 17, right? So if you're using Java 17 and you write a main method of the Java 21 type, it'll just work, right, on Java 17. So that's the reason I added this. It's pretty cool.
it still it has to be inside a class, right? We don't support the unstructured.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah. It has to be inside a class for sure. Yeah. But yeah, you don't have to have the static void main string args thing.
I think Franz is just chatting here saying like there's missing a void here. Like the
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I only added it 2 minutes ago, so yeah. And it's obviously the slide sheets aren't IDE, so yeah, no errors. It didn't catch any errors there.
Yeah.
And I can't work without an IDE, so.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, because the other one you also can do with the R2 one is to have a main method, like a file that you say public void main and run. But that one is, I think.
We haven't done that, but we can. We can do anything.
We need, yeah. Well, yeah, I think we can, but just you still need a class that is outside.
Well, we'll generate it easy. I don't know. It's doable.
Anyway, let's go. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's see. Oh, now we get into the fun part, performance. Because Quarkus, we care about performance.
Yeah. Well, it's not exactly. Well, it's a bit performance, but I guess it's mostly about resource consumption, right?
Yeah.
So if you remember, one of the things that we announced when we launched Quarkus was about that Quarkus was really lightweight at resource consumption, especially on the CPU and memory. Now, unfortunately, right, sometimes when we're working on new features, we're just focusing on delivering those, and then we only come up with the resource savings later. And that was something that we've seen happening when we were moving from over all these versions, right? So we did have a couple of users complaining that the startup time and the memory was becoming worse. And you can see these with these graphs. So I don't want to annoy you too much or bore you to death with these graphs, but I think they were interesting in the sense that you'll see the evolution on the versions, and this is for the JVM, right? So you'll see the memory consumption of the JVM and the startup time. So we started with the baseline on 3 to 4, which was somehow, it is all baseline, so let's not compare it with anything at this point, right? But we see there's like a big increase on 3.4, and then from that point forward, we started to actually look on what was happening, right? So we have seen like some back and forth, right? So we were able to push those numbers down on 3.5. Then we have a couple of regressions on 3.6, and I believe that now we're getting our best numbers on 3.8, which is our LTS version. So these, of course, we can still improve those numbers, and that's something that we're actually looking for. But for now, we're actually happy with the numbers we're getting on this particular version. So one thing that I want to also add or clarify is these numbers. They were we got these numbers using a traditional application using CDI, REST Easy Reactive. So very traditional application. So that's actually the one that you usually see with the numbers on the homepage, right? So meaning that depending on the extensions that you're using, the gains you'll see maybe bigger or lower, right? But those numbers are for a traditional application using REST Easy Reactive, CDI, so very basic stuff, right? But you should definitely see an increase. Now, if you change to the other slide, or if you can show it, please. Now, so the ones that we were showing before was for JVM. So now I'm just including here the startup time with native image, because I think that's the most impressive part of all the work that we did over here, right? So our baseline that we started was around, I don't know, 24 milliseconds, right? So we have some regressions as well when we're doing that work. So the highest point that we got was like 33 milliseconds on 3.3, and then we just started to chop that down on each version, right? So one of the things that I want to also nail is the work could not be done on a single version. right? So there was a lot of things that we wanted to improve, and especially we did some measurements, of course, every time that we hit a new version. But we also wanted to put that on the community first to see what was going to be the behavior of such version. Then after we got some more information, then we just picked that up and then keep improving on that. So on the current versions, I'm not going to annoy you with the intermediate values, but on 3.8, we're now on the lowest startup time on native image, which is 16 milliseconds, well, compared to the baseline. So if you look to all those numbers, so for JVM and for native image, you'll see like a reduction on all those areas. So memory and startup time.
Very awesome. So, yeah, excellent. I think, yes, I think Francis getting onto the similar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we love to push changes that improve a double digit, but no, it's not always possible. But at least, exactly like Roberto shared, benchmarks are lies, and benchmarks. So this kind of improvement are based on two different set of cases. We are talking about runtime performance, and specifically about the HTTP 1.1 and 2 and gRPC. The type of tests are synthetic tests made by users. That's probably the important and interesting bits. And indeed, as with Roberto, everything started with a complaint from someone, but complaining is good in this case. So we read this issue on Quarkus that was comparing HTTP 1.1 performance against HTTP 2. And given that we have people that work on Vertex, I work for Netty as well. That is one of the core part of Quarkus. I basically chased the whole chain to find every type of inefficiency, and that's the best result we have achieved. And the most important part is the reaction of the user that was very happy about it, and that's probably the best, the most rewarding part of what we have done so far.
Yeah, it's good to be competition, and it's good to beat the competition, and the customer or user is happy. So that's awesome.
Yes. I mean, the good thing of having an healthy community is that we get feedback much earlier than customer complaint, or at least that's what we hope.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely.
That's there. Awesome. Yeah. No, and the other thing is just because I know you showed me this, Franz, and the part of this that Roberto's worked on. Yes, we had user report them, but we also had. I want to give a shout out to
Matt Ravel?
Yeah, Matt Rebel, because he has this talk where he shows off like Quarkus and Micronaut and Spring and Native and Held On, and we always been a little like not moody, but like we've been fairly good in those, but then at some point we suddenly fell down like very bad, and we were like, that's weird.
And we weren't living up to your DevOps Belgium comment of we're the #1 native image framework.
Yeah. So and that turned out, and we were like this, we couldn't reproduce it, but it turns out that he's hitting a specific use case, and that's the one that we went for, and we realized, oh yeah, that's the thing we hadn't kept an eye on, and then we fixed it. So
his case was there was a particular issue with performance when you're building the app with Gradle. So because most of us are Maven people, we were not able to reproduce that because we're trying to use that with Maven.
But then the great thing was that we were hunting this and figuring out where it was, and then I remember Franz and you, Roberto, was kind of connecting. Franz was like, hey, no, this is like a classical issue. And then Franz was like, see how you identify it, and then gave it to you. And then we fixed that issue that Matt had. But then I felt like, Roberto, you went into kill all the performance issues. And then
we did a lot of them. I mean, there's still a lot of them, right? But they're like some of those were like long-hanging fruits, right? That you could just like fix more or less easy. Now there are a couple of other things that you can probably improve, but they require like a tremendous amount of effort to improve, and we'll have to consider if we want to move those out. Let me just give you one example of one thing that we did, which doesn't sound like really that great, but I think in the end you actually showed that performance hit, right? So for instance, as you know, I work a lot on the configuration side, right? And when you're matching configuration, right, you have to match a string. And how do you match a string, right? You compare it with the length, right? And then you start with the first characters of the string. Now, if you think about it, usually on most configurations they start with a fixed prefix, which is Quarkus dot something dot something dot something, which most of the configurations always start with Quarkus dot, and then the second and the third part they may be equal or not depending on which extensions are you using. So one of the things that we did to just improve the performance was to just reverse the way that we match the string, right? Because it's going to be less likely to hit like the same characters if you start to match the string backwards, right? So you avoid all the common prefix first. So basically, if you're not when you're matching the string, you're going to fail sooner, right? So it's going to be less cycles and less memory usage just by that, just by doing that.
Yeah. So instead of going, oh, Q worked, U R, you just, oh, and no one else is set.
Exactly. I mean, so that's like a cool trick that we use to improve some things.
Yeah, and that does matter if you have a fairly large application that has a lot of extensions with a lot of keys.
Yeah.
Check and yeah. So no, those are. Yeah, it's funny how well the cool thing I think is like that's the kind of issues we have. It's like
yes,
all the other stuff is fixed.
Yeah.
Now we're like, but when we do those, we can actually like because we're already fast, we can actually even make it even faster. So no, that's awesome. Yeah. By the way, I just saw Arthur was saying this thing about his panache, like using app name native query orientation, have to use integer in the repository class. I think yes, that is still the case. But yeah, this is better a question to ask for on the user forum. We don't have anyone here with a deep Hibernate panache knowledge, I think. Oh, we got one here. Any plan to improve it on Windows? I think none of the core devs use a container-based test doesn't run in CI, and there's no simple way to change the Java version using product. That's a lot of. We do actually have some who's doing it. So Benjamin, I think if you can open issues on these specific ones or point to it, I would like to look at it. Container-based test doesn't run in CI. We run them daily, so I'm sure you might be referring to if you're running a cluster that doesn't want to run nested Docker containers or something.
I think it's the GitHub Actions. The containers in GitHub Actions is a bit awkward.
Yeah, but then if you want to run container-based and so you mean he's running a Windows runner that needs to run container?
No, it's our coverage. We have challenges getting as much coverage on Windows as we do on Linux because of how Windows is and because of how Windows is on GitHub Actions.
Yeah, so this was an issue today, actually. It might have even been Benjamin who opened this pull request. So yeah, basically if it was Benjamin or someone else, I can't exactly remember right now, but someone opened a fix for our dev services, which is a fix for Windows, but we can't test it on CI because Windows doesn't run containers.
Okay.
So we are just eyeballing the change, and yeah, it looks good. But
well,
we have a test that should have been failing previously, but it doesn't run on Windows, so it was failing on Windows. But now with this fix, it would, if it were running on Windows, it would pass.
Yeah. So two things. One, if there's, I actually have a Windows set up for TestNet because I think this is important. But two, Benjamin, this is why we would like contributors to join and be part of it and help test this stuff. We can't test all of them, but I agree. This is the most used desktop and the best way to do this is help and come join help on making this a thing. But yeah, and by the way, like any Windows issue we find, we do take serious. But yeah, it is just tricky to check because Windows is not the easiest one to test on.
Well, I'll just add a note so we don't leave people thinking that we're not testing this stuff.
Yes.
Quarkus QE does have their own setup that everything runs on Windows as well. So they have their own like test suite, and they also run our test suite, or at least part of it. And they do a bunch of stuff, but it's not part of the feedback loop that we have when we're doing pull requests, right?
Yes. And I was also saying, if there is a way we could make that happen, I'm encouraging anyone who is really like passionate about Windows development to help and show up, because I'm sure we can find ways to make that happen. So yeah.
And that's when you kind of say, like, if only there was some company that had like quite a big stake in GitHub that also had quite a big stake in Windows that could try and make those two work slightly better together.
There might be a reason why they don't spend so much time on Windows. I don't know, but yeah. Yes, for sure. It's much, and we definitely know that it's the most tested US, so it's definitely a thing we take serious. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, now we get to related part. We get to the ecosystem. Let me go this. Oh, that is.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of what we've talked about so far has been changes that have been in Quarkus Core, which is for a really good reason, right? Because we've been talking about what we've been doing between 3.8 and 3.2, and that versioning system scheme is for Quarkus Core. And the Quarkus platform. But there's a whole bunch of stuff outside the Quarkus platform that's also had a lot of innovation and a lot of improvement. And Quarkus isn't just that core. Quarkus is the whole ecosystem. So I wanted to give a bit of a shout out to some of the exciting stuff that we've been seeing in the broader ecosystem. So I did sort of a quick pull of the stats, and it looked like since we did 3.2, we've had 22 repositories created in the Quarkiverse hub. So that's where the extension repository is hosted in our org, and then it gets a whole bunch of cool CI stuff and integrations and that kind of thing. So it makes the extension development flow easier. Then sort of these are kind of roughly sorted by downloads. So biggest one that we've seen in terms of downloads is LangChain for J. The Quarkus integration for that has been getting a lot of interest. Our friends at Microsoft have been doing a lot of work making services for Azure, so that's been getting lots of downloads. We've also got a new web bundler repository, Iron Jacomar, Mailpit, PDF Box, Kyoto, Monita. I'm not even sure how to say that, which is why we have the community, right? Because it's things that we're not necessarily aware of that are important that people start building. Antivirus, and also this is one that I did. So Quarkus has support for in the ecosystem. There's support for various non-Java languages. So there's Kotlin, there's Scala, there's Groovy, and now there is a JVM language, a JVM implementation of Rockstar. So if you want to run your Rockstar applications on Quarkus, which obviously everybody does, you can do that now. And then within the sort of the existing repositories, we've also been seeing lots of new extensions. So Amazon have some very popular extensions, and they've added several new ones as well. So there's Amazon Dev Services, which is not the same thing as Quarkus Dev Services, but they have a new extension for that. CRT, the Renard so has several new extensions as well. So Renard JPA and Renard Transporter. And then there's been a bunch of activity in JNoSQL. So there's too many to list, but the most popular were a document Arango. This is another one that's completely over my head, but it's there and people are using it, and a column as well. And then more generally, I was really encouraged sort of looking at all of the extensions. There's 673 extensions that are listed on extensions.quarkus.io. So those are extensions that are in the registry that we know about. And 93% of them have had a release since 3.2. So it's a really active ecosystem. It's not filled with abandonware.
Just to understand, so you said that 22 new Quarkus repositories, I understand that, in Quarkus Hub, and 57 new Quarkus extensions. Okay, so that means on average those 22 had 2 extensions in them? Or
no, so there was 22 repositories. Some of the repositories, like LangChain4j, it's got like maybe 10 extensions in it. Most of these others have only 1 extension in them. But of the existing repositories, they were also creating new extensions. So for example, there's a Renard repository, and it got 2 new extensions in that existing Renard repository. So then I counted. So the 57 is made up of 22 new repositories plus new extensions in the existing repositories.
I would like to invite everybody listening to check what there is on the Quarkiverse, because on Friday I received an email from someone at Red Hat building a demos with an extension I never heard about, OpenCV. I know OpenCV, but I didn't know that we have a Quarkus OpenCV. And he said, I have issues. I looked at it over the weekend. I say, this is dope. I can actually capture my webcam now with Quarkus. And yeah, no, I have plenty of demos ideas you can't believe. But it's super great. And I never heard about it. So check it out.
Reminds me, we actually have a JavaFX extension now. So
yes.
So we have Java. So if you're into JavaFX, you can now boot up and have basic dependency injection working in there. There's a few other things that doesn't work, but it's getting there. So yeah, Quarkus is getting out in use for all kind of weird stuff. So that's awesome. Cool. No, that's great. And I know Holly, you're working on. We try because we have stats for some of these. To get people to be more aware of like which one is most used or which one is popular or that kind of thing. So yeah, no, this is good. Yeah, and again, thank you for everyone who's contributing to this. This is the whole thing that makes it drive, that we can do more than just the core extensions.
100%.
Yeah, I see we had 2 questions coming up here. One was, virtual threads from a name I can't pronounce. Does virtual threads supporting GraphQL? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going. Is support for GraphQL in virtual threads applied? Like, sorry.
Are virtual threads being planned? Are
yes.
they to be supported in GraphQL? That's the question.
Yes. Thank you, Georgios.
So on the client, it works already. I've tried, I have tests. On the server, it's a little bit more challenging, where I'm still need some time to figure out where I need to do the switch. It's definitely possible, but the evil is inside the details, especially on something called context propagation in that case. It's something on the roadmap, clearly, but yeah, it's taking a bit more time. GraphQL is pretty complex because a single query can actually lead to many different concurrent executions. And if I create a virtual thread for every concurrent execution of the single query, it can really be misleading. So I'm trying to find the right thing, the right model for this. But it will come eventually. For the client, it's already there.
Awesome. And then we had, what is this?
HANA? That's
like SAP HANA database.
Mm-hmm.
If SAP HANA database, someone wants to do that they should do so. I can't remember. I know SAP HANA at some point had a license issue, so that's why it's not there. But it's just, we don't have plans for it in core, but someone in Quarkus could definitely do so. But as far as I know, SAP HANA could just be used. It might not work in native, but Quarkus plain up DFC should be fine. Yeah. So Fabiano, if you want it and you know of issues, then open stuff. As we said earlier, things happen when people complain, and not complain, inform us, or shows up at a PR and say, "Hey, this is easy. Let's just do this." Yeah. Yes. And fun fact. Yes, I saw that. It was released yesterday. JHip Quarkus released with support for Quarkus 3.8.1. Cool. I saw the tweet. Someone was, "Hey, coming back to fix this," but I didn't know it was released. That is great.
Thanks on that. Letting us know.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, like the JHipster is this, how do you call it? A higher level code generation framework that had support for Spring and Quarkus and a few others. Yeah, I knew they supported the older version of 3, but 3.8 is great. We got more questions here.
No, they're not.
Or use of Resi Reactive. I'm finding conflicting information in the docs.
No.
No.
If you did find conflicting information, yeah, please open an issue.
Yeah. So yes, but I mean, yeah, no, they're not. But if you see something that indicates they are, let us know, and we'll fix that. Okay. I think we have one more, right? Yes, happiness. Holly, that's yours.
Yeah, this is just my personal list, but I think, when we do this kind of work, there's the big headline features of like, Java 17 or whatever, or Java 17 being the minimum level. But then there's other tiny little things that, sometimes just cause us as maintainers pain, or sometimes they cause the community pain, or sometimes they cause the community pain and then the community causes us pain. But, there's so little that they don't really even make it onto a release note, but they're kind of just satisfying to just keep chipping away at them. And when I was looking back through, one of the ones that I'd forgotten about that I remembered was we always used to put a .final on our version names, and it was like 7 wasted characters, and we were too scared to get rid of them because we'd always done it. And so after the last LTS, we bit the bullet and we did it. So we got rid of those characters. And then the other one, which I listed as a small thing, and it is actually kind of a slightly bigger thing, but it is just one of those little paper cuts that was never quite bad enough for us to fix, was the rest easy reactive naming that you mentioned at the beginning, Max. Because when we talk to people about Quarkus, we always sort of make a point of saying Quarkus, it's really good at reactive, but if you are not using reactive and don't have any desire to use reactive, then Quarkus is really good for that as well. And so then people would say, okay, yep, so I'm choosing my extension and I'm one of those people who don't want to use reactive, so I will choose the not reactive extension, and I've done the right thing. And then we'd have to go back to them and say, yes, when we said you didn't have to use reactive, that meant you didn't have to use reactive, but you still want us to use reactive because it's what makes us fast. So can you go back and undo it and don't choose the non-reactive extension, choose the reactive extension, even though you're not reactive? And then, you could see people just sort of going, what? And so we finally started the process of sorting that out. And so if you are not using the reactive programming model, you will choose the extension that doesn't have reactive in the name, and that will be the right thing to do, which is clearly the way it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to mention here that to add to that confusion, we had 2 different things. Like, for example, with Hibernate ORM and Hibernate Reactive, you are forced to use reactive if you're using Hibernate Reactive, which makes sense. But when you're using Rest Easy Reactive, you're not forced to use reactive. You can use both. So that just added to the confusion.
And I think we actually have an appropriate question here, I think, because Benny coming back about like, okay, so
that exists, but it doesn't really.
That'll be one of the paper cuts for next.
What is Quarkus reactive servant then?
Well, it exists, but it's totally experimental. We've never put any effort into it. Don't plan to unless someone really, really, really needs it.
Okay.
Where is that one?
Well, Stuart did it as a prototype, right? To validate basically that we could do it if necessary.
But
based
is
on
it in core?
Yeah, I think
Well, actually, no, I think it's an independent project.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we don't have an associated extension for that.
I hope not.
well, live and learn. Yeah. So anyway, again, like just be for the servlets are not supported in there. If you have a use case, we might look into it, but again, we haven't seen a use case that justifies to maintain it. So yeah, cool. I don't like. I've been saying the same thing. I chose classic, not knowing I should choose reactive, and yeah, and that's why we've seen that again and again the last 3 years.
And I mean, it's just such a fundamental principle of like, if people have to read the docs to do it right, then there's work to be done.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Is the problem is just what's the thing about like the hardest thing is
naming.
The three other things is naming things and offset by 2 errors, right? Or whatever. And yeah. But no, I'll just iterate again. Quarkus is our default out of the box is blocking. Like this is the default. All the examples we do and all the stuff we do is actually using blocking imperative API on the user level. Underneath it, we use reactive by default just because it allows us to handle more things, and then we optionally let you get access to reactive stuff. And yeah, we should not have called it reactive from day one, but yeah, live and learn.
Yeah, some of these things are only obvious in hindsight.
So
no, yeah, I'll say like when this name was first proposed, I thought it was genius. But
yeah.
It just shows you know exactly what Holly says. And yeah, in hindsight, like 3 years later, didn't turn out like that.
So yeah, no. Yeah, and anyway, and I see there's another on Twitter. There was a guy, I forgot, like Fabios or something, who was looking into Loom, and he was like, "Hey, wait, this virtual thread thing doesn't do back pressure and other things that we are known for in reactive. So how can this be?" And we were like, "Yeah, you know what? There's a reason why we think virtual thread is great for like big channel users, but one of the reasons why we promote reactive is that it has this feature that Loom just cannot enable." At least not in its current form. So
we would need channels. I started working on that 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and I still didn't have a working solution yet.
It's yeah, and yeah, and again, as this is the way I see it is the next couple of years we're gonna have 2.5 ways of programming. It's the imperative, the reactive, and virtual threads. Those 3 are complementary so yeah, and I see Benjamin is happy about not the final. So that's good. Cool. Are we at the end of the slide now? I think we are. So I actually just have one thing I wanted to. Where is the thing? I do want. Oh, the list is short list, but yeah, I just want to again remind and say thank you for everyone. We are now on 912 identified contributors on Quarkus. With Quarkus, it's past 1,000. And that's just like this is nothing without the feedback and complaints and tap on the shoulder, and of course anyone who actually spent time, whether is their work or is their spare time or whatever the reason they come up and show. We are very appreciative of that work. So cool. Is that it? No more questions? Well, that's good then. So. Yeah. Any last famous words, or we just call it the end for today? We'll do so. So on that note, see you next week.